Okay, so we are in Blender and let's actually just get started. So first thing first, obviously we're gonna have to delete everything and let's add the sphere. So we have the sphere over here and now we're gonna have to convert this into a skull. Now, if it is harder for you to sculpt a skull, then what you can do, you can actually just place a image behind. But in this case, I am not really gonna be doing that. I am just gonna be focusing on the Luffy's face and trying to convert this skull into him. So first thing first, you can see how broad the face of Luffy is. So we're gonna just keep all of that stuff in mind actually. Now we are in the sculpt mode. By the way, you can press Control Tab and then you can just go into either the object mode or you can just press the key. For example, in the sculpt mode, you can say the 2 is written. So if you were to press 2, you're gonna be in the sculpt mode. I think it should be easy to understand. Now, the first thing first, we have so many of these brushes, and if you are a beginner and never have you touched the sculpting workflow in Blender, then these could be a little bit frightening for you. But trust me, for this whole process, we are not really gonna be using most of these brushes. We are only gonna be using 4 or 5 maximum, and the 95% of the time we are only gonna be using the clay strip brush, the grab brush, the smooth brush, or maybe the draw sharp brush. So let's actually just look at the clay strip brush and we you can basically add volume like this, right? So you can see that we have added the volume, but we wanna enable the symmetry so that our work would be half. We don't wanna sculpt on both sides, right? That does not make sense. So you can see we have the symmetry option over here. You can actually just enable it, and now you have the option to sculpt both sides. So this is what we are gonna be doing, and I have undone a bit too much. Now the next problem that we need to solve is we don't have enough resolution to make the eyes, the nose, the lips. In this case, we are gonna be making a skull, so not the skull, but let's just say the teeth, right? We don't have enough resolution. So the solution for this is actually there are two solutions. The first solution is let me enable the wireframe. So this is the wireframe. The first solution is dynamic topology. If you were to enable it, you can see that every single one of these faces are triangulated, and wherever you sculpt, Blender is just going to automatically add like the topology, and this is gonna be something that you can use. So this is like one of the first option. You can enable the symmetry, and now you can see that we are actually just doing this. By the way, in order to remove the wireframe and basically all the overlay, you can press Shift Alt Z. So if you were to press that, you can see overlay is gone, and this button is basically just disabled. So it is a shortcut to disable this brush, and yeah, Shift Alt Z. Now this is the first way, but there is a second way, and this is the way that I am gonna be using. So the second way is remesh. You can see we have this voxel size, and this voxel size is at 0.1 meters. So as you can realize, Blender basically calculates stuff in meters, right? This grid is 1 meter. So point 0.1 means that Blender is going to, okay, point 0.1 simply means that all of these small grids, they are point 0.1 because they are 10, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which means all of these small grids, they are point 0.1 meter sized, which means if I were to remesh it right now, you're gonna see that Blender have actually tried creating the polygons of this size. So I think this is simple to understand. The less you do it, for example, if I were to decrease it by 0.001, maybe not that much, let's try 0.01 and then remesh it. So Blender is going to divide these polygons by 10. I mean, technically not divide, but the size of the polygons are going to be 1/10 now. So now you have more polygons to work with. So this is what we are going to be using, by the way. I'm not going to be using the dynamic topology. And yeah, this is, I think, simple to understand. Now, let me undo it. So we have this. I am not going to be going over here every time and just clicking on remesh because that just takes time. But yeah, you can see that Blender actually shows you the shortcut. The shortcut is Control R. So if you are over here and you press Ctrl R, you can actually just subdivide. And if you have something like this, you can see we basically have stretching. And if you were to press Ctrl R, we have fixed all the stretching now. So this is something that you can do. And if you want to change the size of the remesh, you can just press R. And if you were to move your cursor, you're going to be able to just change the size of your remesh. So let's just do that. And let's just say this is the amount of resolution that I want. I can just click on it and press Ctrl R. And now you can see we have this resolution. Okay, so now that we have talked about the brushes, let's actually get started. So first thing first, I am going to be using the grab brush. And with the grab brush, you can actually just grab stuff like this. So by using the grab brush, we can actually just create a skull-like shape. So if you were to look over here, you can see that we have this shape, right? So we're gonna have to do that. And the thing is, I am not gonna be making him smiling. And actually you can, it doesn't really matter, because in order to smile, you need to have muscles. And we are not gonna be creating the muscles. So technically it does not matter whether you are creating him smiling or not. But you can see the shape of the head. So we're gonna have to keep that in mind. And let's actually get started. So first thing first, I have this. I am going to be pushing it up front a little bit, just like this. Basically, we are creating a helmet-like shape. Now let's look at the skull. Actually, it's gonna be much more easier to look at a skull. This is the reference, right? And the first thing that you can see is we don't have a sphere like this. So we're gonna have to push this back. Either you can push it back like this, or you can actually just remove it by using the box trim. So you can just remove it like this. And we have this, but we need to remesh it because we have this face set. And by the way, I am going to talk about the face set later. It is a little bit too complicated of, not too complicated, but still it is still a little bit complicated of a topic. So we're gonna be talking about that later. But let's just smooth it out. And now you can see that we have this flattened part. Now, if you feel like that this part is a bit too flat, I mean, in our case it is, because the head of the Luffy is not supposed to be that tall. What we can do, we can actually just click on scale and just scale it on the x-axis like this. So this is something that we always have the option of. So this is what we have. And obviously we are trying to create a skull-like shape. So this part is going to be the widest. So I'm just going to be using the grab brush and push it back a little. Push it out a little bit. And we have this. So let's actually just fill this part up so that the transition would be a little bit better. And this is what we have. Now let's mark the jaws as well, because why not, right? So in order to mark the jaws, you can literally just create a line like this. Just mark a jaw. Now if you were to press Ctrl 7, you're gonna realize that the jaw is not actually straight. But if you were to look at the skull, it is pretty straight. I mean, this curviness does not actually exist. So we're gonna have to fix that. And in order to do this, we're gonna have to use the grab brush and push it out like this, basically trying to create it as straight as you possibly can. So this is what we have. And we're gonna have to add some volume over here to smooth this part out. So let's just do that. And now we have a jaw, but this jaw is not actually as straight. So we're gonna be using the clay strip brush to remove some of the volumes and make it flat a little bit. So we have this. So you can see the jaw is pretty flat, and we're gonna have to make it a little bit sharper actually. So let's just do that. And the easiest way to make anything sharp is, in this case, you can actually just go to the fall off and use the sharper fall off. So if you were to do that, you're gonna be able to just create a sharper jaw like this. And you can see this is what we have. So from the bottom, we can actually just smooth it out to remove some of the volumes. That's also something that smooth can do. And because it is a skull, we don't really need any fat. We can actually remove stuff from here. Remember that we are actually creating a skull and not the skin or anything. So now that we have this, we can actually just push out the jaws a little bit. Obviously, we are not really looking for the likeness from the start. We can think about it later. The first priority is to create a skull that basically have the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. And after we have that, we can actually just push stuff around to fix the proportions. So yeah, let's actually just look at the skull right now, and we have this. So first thing first, I don't really like how how sharp the jaws were. So I'm just going to smooth this out, and we have this going on. Now, if you were to look over here, you can see that we don't have anything behind. So it should be the same for us as well. And in order to do that, I'm just gonna be using the draw sharp. So before I do anything over here, I wanna say this part is supposed to be in the middle of the skull. So we need to do the same thing, and you can see that this is approximately the middle, because this is where the origin of this face is, skull is. So I am just going to be marking it like this, right? And I need to push it back a little bit, because this angle is not 90 degrees, so I need to push it back. And now we just need to mark like this. And remember, we can actually fix the proportions a little bit later. Right now, we just need to focus on creating a nice looking skull. So this is what we have. Now we can actually use the clay strip brush to remove this volume, because this is something that we don't need. So I can actually just remove it right now. Nice. If you have something like this where things are stretching, for example, over here, you can just press Ctrl R and Blender would just remesh, and basically it would fix all the stretching. Now we need to create the eyes, but we don't want to create a real eyes like this. So let's actually mark these first. And if you were to look over here, the eyes are approximately at the half of the whole head, but this is not where the eye socket actually starts. So socket basically starts a little bit above than the eye. So we're gonna be doing the same thing. You can see this is like the middle. The red part is going to be the middle. So we need to just mark somewhere around here. And in this case, because the eyes are supposed to be a little big, we can go a little bit up as well. So I can actually mark a little bit roundier instead of realistic like this, because again, we are creating a stylized skull. So you need to remember that. And let me just remove some of the volume. Okay, now we have the eye socket, but we need to fix the shape of it. So if you were to look at it from the side, and let me just put it at the side as well, you're gonna realize that this part is going to be a little bit back. And this is also gonna be the same in this particular case. By the way, you can see we have this angle, right? So we're gonna have to add that in our case as well. So I am going to be pushing it back like this, not too much. We can always fix these kind of stuff later. So I am not really that concerned. We can actually push this a little bit back like this. And now we can actually just smooth it out. We don't really have to focus too much on the details or too much on the likeness with the real skull. Remember, we don't really care about the real skull right now. We only care about the Luffy's like face. So now that we have this, we can actually just create the nose. So right now we are just adding stuff so that it would be easier for us. Okay, we didn't actually want our nose to be that broad, right? Remember the Luffy's nose, it's not that broad. So we're gonna have to do the same, and let's just do that. So let's just do something like this. I think this should be good enough. And in this particular case, if you want to, you can increase the resolution, and that is also something that I'm gonna do. So let's just press R and increase the resolution to 0.015, I guess, and then just remesh it. So we have more polygons to work with now, and let's just use the clay strip brush to remove some of it like this. And now let's actually add this middle line so that it will look a little bit nicer. And we have this. Obviously, it's not the best nose, no, but right now we can actually afford to do it, because we are only working on the skull. Let's actually just look at it from the side.